This is the Rigor Mortis project that I went on ahead and selected for our week 10. So what is rigor mortis? Well, rigor mortis, as seen there on the image, is basically a chemical change that the body goes through within just a few hours after death. And this basically lasts only just a few days. There are many factors that come into play when rigor mortis basically begins. These factors can include such as age, size of the decedent, the temperature of the body, environment conditions such as humidity, heat temperatures, cool temperatures, infectious conditions or diseases, toxins, premorbid illnesses even, and the exercise or physical activity before the prior to death. Now, one thing about rigor mortis is that it is a chemical change, not a physical. It looks like it would be a physical change, but it's actually a chemical change that the body goes through within a few hours after death, and it only lasts a few days. And the thing about this is that it's also, once this stage of basically death has already gone its course, it's not going to happen again. So again, this is not to be misunderstood as a post-mortem physical change, because it is observed as a stiffening of the skeletal muscles, which is actually the physical manifestation, but it is actually indeed a chemical change. Now, rigor mortis, the duration of it basically depends on variables that I had mentioned earlier, such as the factors of age, size, and of the individual, or temperatures. And once this begins, it can happen within 4 hours of death, and it can last up to 3 days. The knowledge of this is basically necessary because as a future embalmers, it gives us our approximation of how long the body has been dead and the level of decomposition the body is in its stage. The stages of rigor mortis is actually broken down into 4 different stages. We have autolysis, we have bloat, active decay, and skeletonization. The first stage is autolysis, and this is basically something I can remember it by is the body's beginning stage of self-destruct, if you will. This is basically self-digestion. It's where it starts right after death, after your heart stops beating and your lungs are no longer giving the body oxygen, nor can the body get rid of the metabolic waste. It makes an acidic environment in the body itself, and with that going on, skin starts to relax, and membranes then produce enzymes that, again, like how I said, the self-destruct, these enzymes that our body creates basically start eating at those cells. And so that then leads us to our second stage, which is the bloat stage. At this point, there is membranes producing numerous gases. We have gases all over the body that basically change skin color due to the sulfur basically containing mixes discharged by bacteria. Usually we can see this happening basically around the abdomen area. I know there's a couple where I've seen like even a greenish color taking place. And this is all delivered by microorganisms causing what is known as putrefaction. So then our third stage now, after the bloat stage, is what we call active decay. During this stage is when all the delicate tissues of the body basically begin to start decay. The leakage of fluids, through all sorts of orifices of the body, basically are giving that active, point of muscles, organs, skin actively start that liquefying process. And it's at this point that we start seeing the decedent begin to lose that water weight. So, from the bloat, all of a sudden it's like they start going down. And that leads us to our last final stage, which is the skeletonization stage. It's easy to remember because from, decedent, freshly passed, all of a sudden to what do we turn into? Skeleton. And that's basically the loss of organic and inorganic components which make the final skeletonization stage. where it is basically when the soft tissues of a body or a carcass have deteriorated or dried to the point where it's just skeleton at that final stage. What causes the rigor mortis? Well, basically the muscles need energy to function. We have our ATP that we have, and our muscles are basically composed of two bands, which is myosin and actin. And these two bands, they move together towards each other to form bonds. And when we no longer have that in our bodies, basically these bonds begin to relax in the muscle. Immediately after death, the muscles become limp, and there is no sign of the brain instructing these muscles what to do, contract or retract. The muscles basically start to have energy reserve that can be used, so the muscles can remain relaxed. After a few hours, though, the energy reserve deplete until they are gone. So with no more respiration or food intake or ATP, these muscles basically freeze in that position that they were in. It starts affecting the whole body simultaneously, and smaller muscles like those of the eyelids, face, and muscles of the fingers stiffen, and that's like the first ones that you can start seeing that reaction take place. In this slide here, I would really recommend y'all checking out that QR code. I found this really interesting, about 10-11 minute video on rigor mortis, and it's actually very interesting. Well, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and you all have yourselves a good day.